Hey everybody, what's up, girl? Welcome to my channel, you guys, Real Talk Recovery, where we talk about recovery from addiction and I share my life with you. Tonight we are going to be going over step 1 out of the Narcotics Anonymous basic text. Step 1 out of the Narcotics Anonymous basic text. I'm going live an hour early tonight, so if you miss this live stream, you guys, it's not your fault. You probably came on time. I'm just coming on early. I'm kind of out of the swing of things since Nate was out of school for a week, so I'm trying to get myself back in the swing of things. Oh, hold on. Hello. Why are you calling me now? Why are you calling me? Okay. Hey, everybody. Hey, guys. Okay, cool. Hold on a second. I just got done putting out dinner because I thought my husband wasn't coming home. So hold on just a second, guys. Let me get this dinner out for Neil. Oh. It sucks because his job, it's like he has to be there and stay there because he's the manager. And so he just gets overwhelmed sometimes, guys? All right. Hopefully that will be enough. Okay. All right, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Hey, guys. Hey, Avalon. Hey, Reaper Man. Hey, everybody. Okay, so I told you guys we would be doing step 1 step studies again. Okay, so for about... Hello? Yes? Are you okay? I got it in my purse. All right. Okay. Let's do this, y'all. So, I probably need to go in the computer room so we don't have any interruptions. So let me take you guys in the computer room with me and we will do our step study together. All right. Okay, sorry about that. All right, here we go. Okay. All right, I need to put you guys up farther, but oh. Usually I'm so much more prepared. Okay, oh well, we'll just have to do it from a shitty angle. That'll be fun. Okay. This is like really bad lighting, huh, guys? Okay, what's up, everybody? I'm here. Okay. Hey, Chrissy. All right. I'm glad you guys are all here. Okay, so first things first, welcome, you guys. From now on Monday nights, we are going to get back into studying the steps. Okay. Each Monday, we will take a step and we will learn everything about it that we can together. Okay. It's not like I'm going to read from this. I'm going to share my personal experience. If you guys have personal experience you want to share, put it in the comment section and we can learn together. Okay. First things first, let's do our courage to change meditation. And then, Neil, there is garlic bread in the toaster oven. December 2nd. I can easily itemize my loved one's limitations. Hours pass while I list the ways in which he could stand to change. But not one thing has ever improved as a result of this mental criticism. All it does is keep my mind on someone other than me. Instead of admitting my powerlessness over another person's choices and attitudes, I flirt with illusions of power. In the end, I am little more bitter, more hopeless, and more frustrated. And nothing about my situation or the other person has changed. What would happen if I took my list of criticisms and applied it gently to myself? I may complain about my loved one's verbal abuse. After all, I don't speak to him that way. But at the level of thought, am I just as abusive? The same attitude exists in both of us. We just manifest it differently. Today's reminder: let it begin with me. When I identify something I dislike in another, I can look for similar traits within myself and begin to change them. By changing myself, I truly can change the world. Y'all hear that? So it's easy to point out somebody else's character defects and flaws, you know. And when you're in a relationship with someone else, it's really easy. But just like it says here, a lot of the times, when, like, for me and Neil, like, I could tear him apart for, let's think, snapping at me sometimes, getting an attitude with me. Well, y'all know I get an attitude too. And so, just like, take Avalon. You know how, like, have you guys ever heard the saying, we taking someone else's inventory, right? Like, I could write down all the things that I think that Avalon needs to change, right? Oh, that Avalon. She needs to get serious. She needs to do her meditation. Oh, she hasn't been praying, and I can write this whole list of all these things that Avalon needs to change, right? But I bet you $500 if I took that list and, just like this book says, and applied it to my life, that I would probably need to change all those things in myself. So it's easy. It's easy to turn. It's easy to look at someone else then look at yourself. And then there's also a saying, or people say that a lot here on YouTube. It's hurt people, right? And I think I was watching a drama channel the other day. Whose drama channel was that? Was it Peter Mon? Whose drama? You guys, I don't know. Maybe y'all saw it. Oh, I know who it was. It was The Rewired Soul. The Rewired Soul made a video the other day talking about why do we like to watch other people's drama. And I'm like, that's easy. I know why. Because it's not my drama and it distracts me from what's going on in my life. If maybe I have something going on in my life that I'm struggling with, right? And when I'm struggling with those things in my life, watching somebody else's life fall apart isn't so bad, right? It makes me feel like my life isn't as bad. I like that. We scratch others where we are itching ourselves. Yes, absolutely. It is. You're right. Avalon needs to change so much, but Avalon can point out everyone else's issues. I'm the same way, girl. I'm the same way. And I really have been working on not doing that. But I still think it in my mind. You know what I mean? Like, especially if somebody hurts me, I'll be like, well, how are they doing? Are they really doing what they're supposed to? Like, I automatically go to this defensive place in my mind where I start thinking, judging, I guess you could say, judging that person, and listen, you guys, we all do it. Just like Green Eyed Cat said, it's the human condition. It's just, how we react and act out afterward, like, I realize that is something in me that I know it's not desirable. Like, nobody likes someone who is judging or who is picking someone else's life apart, right? And so I try to keep that to myself sometimes because I don't want, but I think those things, and I'm just sharing that with you guys because this is like basically my diary. YouTube is my diary. So y'all don't tell nobody, okay? A big No, girl, it's a candle holder. It's an old candle holder. This is like my mother-in-law's, just where she has a bunch of junk in here. Okay, so let's start out by reading the beginning of this book. Okay, it says, oh, my back is killing me. Okay, chapter 1. Who is an addict? Do y'all know if you're an addict or not? Who's an addict? Most of us do not have to think twice about this question. We know our whole life and thinking was centered in drugs in one form or another, the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. We live to use and use to live. Very simply, an addict is a man or a woman whose life is controlled by drugs. We are people in the grip of a continuing and progressive illness whose ends are always the same: jails, institutions, and death. So, in that little paragraph right there, I have we live to use and use to live circled and highlighted, because just that we live to use and we use to live. I used to say when I first got sober, I was trying to like figure out why, what is it I was doing? You know, how people will say, I'm living my best life. And that's when I realized when I was in active addiction, I was barely surviving. I was just maintaining. You know, I was maintaining this like really pathetic, sad, lonely existence on drugs, you know? And so, just like this says, I live to use and use to live. So right here in the beginning of the book, it tells us that the disease of addiction is an illness and it's progressive. That means it gets worse, never better. And it also tells us that the only place we're going to head if we continue in our active addiction is jails, institutions, rehabs, the mental institution, or death, 6 feet under. What a desperate existence active addiction is. It is. It really is. And I, you know, I used to hear people say before I got sober, they'd say, well, she just doesn't have the gift of desperation, you know? And I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, no, I'm not desperate. Who do they think they are, you know? And now I realize exactly what they meant. Like, it hadn't gotten to that point yet where the pain was outweighing the pleasure of using. And then when it did get to that point, I was like, I can't take this anymore. I got to get out of this life, you know? And it was like I was on fire trying to run out of there. And I was seeking help, seeking help. Those of us who have found the program of Narcotics Anonymous do not have to think twice about this question: who is an addict? We know. The following is our experience. So right now, this is their experience. The people who wrote this book, Narcotics Anonymous, this is their experience. As addicts, we are people whose use of any mind-altering, mood-changing substances causes a problem in any area of our life. Addiction is a disease that involves more than the use of drugs. Okay, so let's pause right there. So right here it says, okay, that the use of this substance causes problems in any area of our life. Addiction is a disease that involves more than the use of drugs. So how many of you guys thought that the disease of addiction, and that when you got sober and just quit using, that your life was going to just magically get better? I mean, I did. I thought, you know, you take the drugs away, I'm going to be better. It's these damn drugs that are fucking me up, right? If I wasn't doing these drugs, I'd be just fine. But then I got off the drugs and my life was still unmanageable, even not high. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. Some of us believe that our disease was present long before the first time we used. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. You take the drugs and the alcohol away, and then your life is still unmanageable. Well, that's because a lot of us started getting high because we were seeking relief. And by using drugs and alcohol, it gave us almost like a peace, right? Almost like a peace of mind. And they say that the relief is so the euphoria is what did they say, the euphoria? The feeling is so elusive that we will follow it to the gates of insanity and even death. Oh, I know that's right. When you get to the point where I was, that you get sick of it and can't wait to do something will happen. That's right, Reaper Man. You got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. You're right. You're right. Okay. Most of us did not consider ourselves addicted before coming to Narcotics Anonymous. The information available to us came from misinformed people. As long as we could stop using for a while, we thought we were all right. So, how many of you guys would be able to like stop for like a couple months, and then you would get your life together, you get sober for a couple months, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, maybe even a year, and you would get a job, you get your car back, you start paying your bills again, your husband's not mad, your girlfriend's not mad, and things start falling back into place, and everything's moving smoothly. And then all of a sudden, bam, you're back at it again, right? It's because nothing changed. Okay? You can't Nothing changes when you just stop using. That is the least of the problem when you get sober. Getting Stopping the drugs is probably the easier part. It's all the inside work and the work on ourselves that we have to do that is challenging. And that's what I was talking about last night when I was sharing with you guys how I'm going through some changes and I'm kind of feeling like um those are those changes that I'm going through because I'm working in my life. You know what I mean? I'm working to be a better person. I'm working to do the right thing. And it's freaking hard work. And so as I change and grow in my recovery, I feel these changes, emotional changes, um just changes on the inside that I normally wouldn't experience if I wasn't living my life in recovery. Ooh, it's a journey. Okay, we looked at stopping, not the using. As our addiction progressed, we thought of stopping less and less. Only in desperation did we ask ourselves, could it be the drugs? We did not choose to become addicts. We suffer from a disease that expresses itself in ways that are antisocial and that makes detection, diagnosis, and treatment difficult. So, right there, we did not choose to become addicts. We suffer from a disease. This disease makes us isolate, it makes us antisocial, and it makes it hard to diagnose us because a lot of the times, someone who's struggling with the disease of addiction, a lot of people will think it's mental illness. A lot of people, or we will be medicating because of mental illness. We'll be isolating, we'll pull away, hiding out, and therefore we're not going to the doctor, we're not staying connected to our families. And so they don't know. They just think, oh, that Nicole, she doesn't want to be around us, right? She just doesn't want to have us in her life. And I remember my mom and dad, like I would disappear for years at a time. And I lived with this boy and we were together for like 6 or 7 years and it was just, oh, hell on earth, you guys. But I stayed there because we both were in this drug fueled, just our relationship was so toxic and just drugs, 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 drugs. But if you asked me back then if I thought I had a problem or if I thought I was a drug addict, I would have told you no, because I had a job, I had a car, I had my own place at that time, and that kind of helped me to justify away, the struggle that I was really experiencing. Okay, okay, let's flip the page. All right, guys, ready? Our disease isolated us from people except when we were getting, using, and finding ways and means to get more. So did you hear that? Our disease isolated us from people, except when we were getting, using, and finding ways and means to get more. Oh my God. The only time I wanted to be around anybody else was if they were getting me high. I can remember going to my girlfriend Tara's house and she was the same way. I would pick her up or she would pick me up. And we would go and search together. We would hustle up some money. And then after it was all gone, I would go hide in a room and she would go hide in the other end of the house. Hostile, resentful, self-centered, and self-seeking. We cut ourselves off from the outside world. Anything not completely familiar became alien and dangerous. Our world shrank and isolation became our life. We used in order to survive. It was the only way of life that we knew. We used in order to survive. It was the only way of life that we knew. Damn, man. That hits me right in the damn gut, you know what I mean? Because that's all I was doing was barely even making it. I wouldn't even call it surviving. I was barely maintaining. I was barely holding my head above the water, you guys. I was treading water 24/7. I would get so tired, you guys, so tired. And I would get so overwhelmed. And it was my own doing a lot of the times, you know. I put myself in so many compromising situations, and I know that my addiction had taken over long before I was ready to admit that it was that I had. You know, I still really thought that I had control over what was going on. I really did. And God, it was like I really don't even know. It was very long into my addiction before I finally admitted that I didn't have really any control at all and that I had lost everything. I had lost my mind, you know? Okay, some of us misused, and abused drugs and still did not consider ourselves addicts. Through all of this, we kept telling ourselves, God, this word right here, these words, I can handle it. Through all of this, we kept telling ourselves, I can handle it. I got this. I can't ask for help. It's too much. I don't want to be a burden on anybody. Oh, I don't want to call and I don't want to tell them about my problems. They won't understand. I can handle this. I can do this. Our misconceptions about the nature of addiction included visions of violence, street crime, dirty needles, and jail. So, how many of you guys thought, oh, well, I'm not shooting up. I'm not living on the streets. I'm I'm not homeless. Okay, this is how I was for a long time. I'm admitting this to you guys, okay? For a long time, I was like, hey, I'm not shooting up. I'm not homeless. I still have a car. I mean, I'm not like underneath a bridge with a paper bag or anything. Okay? When our addiction was treated as a crime or a moral deficiency, we became rebellious and were driven deeper into isolation. Some of the highs felt great, but eventually the things that we had to do to continue using reflected desperation. We were caught in the grip of our disease. We were forced to survive any way that we could. We manipulated people and tried to control everything around us. We lied, stole, cheated, and sold ourselves. We had to have drugs regardless of the cost. Failure and fear began to invade our lives. We lied and stole and cheated and sold ourselves. We had to have drugs regardless of the costs. How many of you guys can remember times that you did not want to do something with everything in your heart? You did not want to do what you did not want to steal that $20 out of your mom's purse, or with all your heart you didn't want to work the corner. You didn't want to shoplift. You didn't want to mix up some fake dope and give it to somebody so that way you could get over on them and get some extra money, right? Right? These are all things that I did that I said I would never do, right? I was like, I'll never steal from my parents. I'll never shoot up. I'll never have sex for dope. I'll never cheat on my man. I'll never, you know, sleep with all multiple partners. I'm saving myself for marriage. These are things that I like really thought I said I would never do. And I thought that because I hadn't done those things for a while, that I was an exception to the rule. And by thinking that I was an exception to the rule, I kept going and going and going until finally I checked all those things off on my list. All those things I said I would never do. I checked them off one by one, and I had done them, right? I had done them. Okay. Failure. Okay. One aspect of our addiction was our inability to deal with life on life's terms. So I know you guys have heard this saying before. One aspect of our addiction was our inability to deal with life on life's terms. We tried drugs and combinations of drugs to cope with a seemingly hostile word. So, life on life's terms. You guys know what that means? Okay, so life is going to happen whether I am high, sober, sick, happy, sad, mad, glad. And when life hands me lemons, today I'm going to make lemonade. But back when I was in my addiction, if life handed me lemons, I was going to break down some crack and shoot it up with that lemon. I was really didn't know how to handle certain situations, right? I didn't know how to handle disappointment, sadness, rejection, fear, anger. These are all emotions that I could not handle. You know what I mean? I didn't know how to deal with that shit. And so, not knowing how to deal with those emotions, those situations, I would use drugs to cover those feelings up. We dreamed of finding a magic formula that would solve our ultimate problem. And guess what our ultimate problem was? Ourselves. So, how many of you guys tried to mix up magical concoctions of drugs? Okay, this was me. I remember when I got busted for my felony. I was just like, meth is the devil. That's right. That's why I keep getting in trouble. It's that damn meth. And I was like swearing it off. I was like, I'm never going to do meth again. And so I started drinking. I started drinking every single day. Drinking was good and everything, but it just wasn't cutting it. So I was like, you know what? I need a pill. And then those pills came in, Xanax, opiates, and then I just switched from methamphetamine to pills. But it was like I was always trying to mastermind this formula that was going to get me to where I wanted to be without the consequences. That was the T. I wanted to get high without any consequences. And I had reached a point in my addiction where anytime I got high, shit was going down. I was going to be experiencing negative consequences. The fact was that we could not use any mind altering or mood changing substance, including marijuana and alcohol successfully. Drugs ceased to make us feel good. At times we were defensive. Now listen, you guys. Take what you need and leave the rest behind, okay? We're reading now the Narcotics Anonymous book, and Narcotics Anonymous they are straight up about abstinence, and they say it in here. You hear them. They say the fact was that we could not use any mind altering or mood changing substance, including marijuana and alcohol, successfully. So I'm sure you guys want to know what I think about that. And I'm just going to tell you guys, like, I love the 12 steps, okay? Whether it's Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Celebrate Recovery, CA, HA. I really enjoy the 12 steps. But I do feel like, well, in my situation, like with the medication that I'm on, Suboxone, and you guys know I'm working real hard on my taper. I'm down to 4 milligrams, okay? I don't get a feeling from my Suboxone at all. I'm just on it because, well, if I jump off of it, I'm going to be ill, and because it's really helped me to gain stabilization. You know what I mean? It's really helped me. But do I think that everyone needs to be on Suboxone? No. Would I recommend somebody to get on Suboxone that has never tried to get sober on their own, no, I would tell them to try and get sober on their own first. But the way life is now and the way opiates are today, it's almost more of a harm reduction point of view that I'm coming from. And I would rather you get on a medication and be able to be monitored and then tapered off than to be worried about somebody judging you. So that's why I always say, I want you guys to go to meetings. I want you guys to go out and meet people and fellowship with other people that are sober, because NA and AA have huge fellowships all around, right? They're everywhere. But sometimes there's things that we just have to keep to ourselves, you know? Not everybody needs to know if you're on maintenance medication, okay? You go in there and you take what you need and you leave the rest behind. Hey Ashley, I'm so sorry, girl. Welcome to the channel. Hey Codex, what's up? I hear ya. That's whatever works for you. And that's the thing, you guys, I really want to reiterate really quickly. Like, I'm not a representative of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm not a representative of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're just reading about the disease of addiction out of this book, and we're learning together, you know? But only you know what's good for you. You got to be honest with yourself. Only you know if you're using something and abusing it. You know, there are some people, you guys listen, I am a textbook example of somebody who has thrived on Suboxone. It has helped me so much. My whole life has changed. I have been able to get a job, get my son back, stay sober 4.5 years, and now I'm tapering low and slow off the medication. But I do know people who have gotten on it that could not do it. They were shooting it up and snorting it and doing all other kinds of stuff. So you just always have to remember that everyone's body is different, okay? So take what you need, leave the rest behind. Okay. At times we were defensive about our addiction and justified our right to use, especially when we had legal prescriptions. That's how it started out with me, is like I had a legal prescription of hydrocodone, Soma, and Xanax. And I mean, I wore that legal prescription excuse out until the very end, until they took it away from me. We were proud of the sometimes illegal and often bizarre behavior that typified our using. We forgot about the times when we sat alone and were consumed by fear and self-pity. We fell into a pattern of selective thinking. We only remembered the good drug experiences. Okay, did you guys hear that? We only remembered the good drug experiences. So a couple of years ago, I don't know where I was at, but I think I was like at some kind of like class or something for addiction. But I heard this, I think that the teacher was talking about it, but she said there's this thing, it's called euphoric recall. And what it is when our brain only remembers how good that substance made us feel, right? It only remembers the good times that we had when we were getting loaded. All right. So, like, you know how I tell you guys we got to play the tape all the way through? A lot of the times I catch myself doing it too, you guys. I catch myself thinking, I'm laughing, kiki and all this stuff, talking about all the old times I used to have when I was in active addiction, because shit was funny. I was crazy back then. But I mean, I can look back on it now and I laugh now because I'm not living that life anymore. You know what I'm saying? But for a long time, the reason I kept relapsing, I think, is because one, I wouldn't let go of people, places, and things. And two, every time a drug that I wanted to get high on came around me or I thought about it, I wouldn't think about, oh, well, last time you took Xanax, you drove your car into a brick wall, Nicole. No, I wouldn't think about that. I would think about how great I felt laid out on Xanax. Or I wouldn't think about how I shot meth and hallucinated and then ended up in the hospital in a coma for 7 days. No, I wouldn't remember that time. I would only remember the time I got super spun out and stayed up all night and had sex all night or something. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, these are the times that I would remember. And I know y'all know what I'm talking about if y'all ever did meth. You know what I mean? That's what I had to not freaking do. And that was me thinking in my mind and remembering that's that euphoria. That's that euphoric recall. It's recalling the feel good feelings into my brain. You know what I mean? We justified and rationalized the things that we did to keep from being sick or going crazy. We ignored the times when life seemed to be a nightmare. We avoided the reality of our addiction. Higher mental and emotional functions, such as conscious and ability to love, were sharply affected by our use. Living skills were reduced to animal level. Our spirit was broken. The capacity to feel human was lost. This seems extreme, but many of us have been in this state of mind. We were constantly searching for the answer. That person, place, or thing that would make everything all right. We lacked the ability to cope with daily living. We were constantly searching for the answer, that person, place, or thing that would make everything all right. How many of you girls, when you were actively in your addiction, can look back, and you guys too, because I know you men do the same thing. How many of you guys can look back on when you were in active addiction and see how you jumped from relationship to relationship? Or let's say you would be in a really long relationship and then you would break up and then it would be a little bit and then you'd be in another really long relationship, right? And it's because I always felt like I needed to have a man to be there to make me feel complete. I think some of you guys might feel that same way about women too. Um, or if I could just get this job, right? If I could just, okay, I'll see you later. Thank you for coming in. I'll come by and see your video after this. Um, if I could just get this job and, if I could just get this job and move into this new apartment, everything will be okay. Or how about this? As soon as I get my car fixed, then I'll be able to get to my work and pay my rent on time. Or if me and my old lady could just get along, everything would be all right, right? These were all the things that I would always think, if I could just, if I could just, if I could just, if I could just, right? If I could just, if we could just, if it could just, right? It's because I lacked the ability to cope with life. It didn't matter, like I was saying before. It could be a damn celebration. We could be having a birthday party and I'm getting high. I'm getting fucked up because it's a damn celebration, right? Because I can't even cope with good shit happening. Well, that's because your drugs were your relationship, Tony. That sounds like, I have known people like that too. But it didn't matter if like I wasn't dating the person, I had to be with other people. Now, towards the end, it was just me and Neil. We were lone rangers. But during, the beginning and the middle of my addiction, I was always around other people. I'm new, so do you guys have meetings every night? Hey, Colleen. Okay, so this is what we do, girl. On Mondays, we're doing step studies. On Wednesdays, I haven't even decided what we're going to do on Wednesdays. But on Mondays and Fridays at 7, we do our meetings. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I went live early tonight, and sometimes I do that because my husband was getting off work, and I want to be able to get off here and go be with him because he got off early tonight. But usually every Monday and Friday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, you can find me here, girl, every Monday and Friday without fail. And we have a Discord chat. We have a free Facebook group. We have Discord, Facebook, Patreon. So that's all different places you can chat with everybody else and have support and all that good stuff. For sure. Never miss a Monday or Friday. Okay. Here we go, guys. As our addiction progressed, many of us found ourselves in and out of institutions, rehab, or jail. These experiences indicated that there was something wrong with our lives. We wanted an easy way out. Some of us thought of suicide. Our attempts were usually feeble and only helped to contribute to our feelings of worthlessness. We were trapped in the illusion of what if only, and just one more time. When we did seek help, we were only looking for the absence of pain. We had regained good physical health many times, only to lose it by using again. Our track record shows that it is impossible for us to use successfully. So, have you guys come to that realization yet that it's impossible for you to use drugs successfully? It took me a long time to accept that in my life. For a long time, I was still holding on to this idea that I would be able to get high and I would be able to not have any consequences. And that was another reason why I kept relapsing, because I had this reservation. I had this one more time saved up. Do you know what I'm saying? No matter how well we may appear to be in control, using drugs always brings us to our knees. Like other incurable diseases, addiction can be arrested. We agree that there is nothing shameful about being an addict, provided we accept our dilemma honestly and take positive action. We are willing to admit without reservation that we are allergic to drugs. Common sense tells us that it would be insane to go back to the source of our allergy. Our experience indicates that medicine cannot cure our illness. Although physical and mental tolerance play a role, many drugs require no extended period of use to trigger allergic reactions. Our reaction to drugs is what makes us addicts, not how much we use. Okay, so have you guys ever heard of the disease as our addiction referred to as an allergy? Now, I'll tell you where that comes from. So, y'all know I love the big book about Alcoholics Anonymous. So, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there was a doctor called Dr. Silkworth. And Dr. Silkworth and Dr. Bob, they both wrote in the book, and they wrote about how the disease of addiction is a manifestation of an allergy. Okay? The way I'm going to explain it to you is like this. Let's say you're born and your mom doesn't know you have a peanut allergy. The only way she's going to find out, or the only way you find out, is by eating a peanut and having an allergic reaction, right? Well, that's what it's like with the disease of addiction. You don't know it's there until you take a drug or a drink into your body, and then your body responds to it differently than other people's does by wanting more, right? Oh, I need more alcohol. I need more cocaine. I need more pills, right? You'll see normal people who are on painkillers and they'll say, oh, that made me feel all weird. I don't like that. I don't like feeling out of control. That's what all my normal friends would always say. I don't know how you I don't know how you enjoy that stuff, Nicole. I don't like feeling out of control. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm talking about give me some more. Hey, Danielle. Colleen, I was just talking about that last night. Um, I do too, and it's always about either, especially around this time of year, about wine or eggnog. I love eggnog, and I don't even think I've ever drank the alcohol t- alcohol kind. But for some reason, when it gets to be the holidays, it's like I can't help but think about eggnog. That's I mean, but also I'll tell you this: when I start having like drug dreams or something, I always kind of like do a check, and I think, okay, what am I not doing that I was doing before that was helping me not have the drug dreams, right? So a lot of the times whenever I start dreaming and stuff again, it's because I've kind of like dropped the ball on some of my recovery things that I do to stay sober. And so maybe I stopped calling my sponsor, maybe I stopped doing meetings, maybe I stopped coming on here and sharing my experience, strength, and hope. Maybe I stopped working with others. I'll tell you what helps me the most is being able to work with other people who are in recovery or who are trying to get sober, because it really refreshes my memory on the struggle of what it was like to be out in my active addiction. Oh, yeah, Colleen, I am too. Me too, girl. I'm on 4 milligrams, down from 12. Um, it helps me to stay like balanced and to grasp the fact that, hey, oh, I'm sorry, what? I'm reading y'all's comments. Hey, Classy. Classy, did you post a video? Hey, Ashley, you are too. I figured you guys were, a lot of you guys were. Hey, Angel, where you been, girl? I saw you on your channel, girl. And who's this picture? That's not you. Hey, hearts. Hold on, you guys. Okay. Although physical and mental tolerance play a role, many drugs will. Okay, so we're over to the next page. Let's see, how far are we going to the end? Okay, we don't have far to go. Let's finish this chapter so we can say we did it, okay? Booze mixed in eggnog always just sounded nasty. Girl, I don't know what it is about eggnog, Marcy, but I just love the taste of it. Okay. Many of us did not, and that's why I like had to say that earlier, Colleen and Ashley. I don't want you guys to think like, oh, she's reading this book and it's saying, you know, I believe that I'm sober. I believe that being on Suboxone, I'm abstinent. I'm not getting high at all. I'm not using drugs. I know a lot of people that are sober that are prescribed medications for anxiety and pain, and they don't get questioned whether or not they're sober or not. So, honey, I'm sober. And so are you. Many of us did not think we had a problem with drugs until the drugs ran out. Oh, I know that's right. Even when others told us that we had a problem, we were convinced that we were right and the world was wrong. We used this belief to justify our self-destructive behavior. We developed a point of view that enabled us to pursue our addiction without concern for our own well-being or well-being of others. We began to feel that the drugs were killing us long before we could ever admit. We noticed that if we tried to stop using, we couldn't. We suspected that we had lost control over the drugs and had no power to stop. Certain things followed as we continued to use. We became accustomed to a state of mind that is common to addicts. We forgot it was like what it was like before we started using. We forgot about social graces. We acquired strange habits and mannerisms. We forgot how to work. We forgot how to play, and we forgot how to express ourselves and how to show concern for others. We forgot how to feel. That's the real truth right there, is that through using drugs and alcohol for so many years, I pushed down those feelings for so long that now, you guys, I feel like my feelings are just electric now. I feel like I feel my feelings so strong now. I can't even hold them in. Like when I get emotional, it's like the waterworks just turn on. And it's because for so long I I I I I totally closed out those feelings. I totally muted them. The way I described it the other night is when you're on drugs, let's say you're the TV controller to the TV. When you're on drugs, you're on mute. Okay? When you get sober, it's like somebody just took you and all the way up to the volume on as loud as it'll go. And you're like, damn. It's like they don't even like slowly inch it up there. It's like you go from mute to blaring in 5.5 seconds. Do you know what I'm saying? And so it's like all these feelings just start rushing in times 1,000. While using, we lived in another world. We experienced only periodic jolts of reality or self awareness. It seemed that we were at least two people instead of one, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We ran around and tried to get our lives together before our next run. Sometimes we could do this very well, but later it was less important and more impossible. In the end, Dr. Jekyll died and Mr. Hyde took over. Each of us has a few things that we never did. We cannot let these things become excuses to use again. Some of us feel lonely because of differences between us and other members. This feeling makes it difficult to give up old connections and old habits. We all have different tolerances for pain. Some addicts needed to go to greater extremes than others. Some of us found that we had enough when we realized that we were getting high too often and it was affecting our daily lives. So, did you hear that? Some addicts needed to go to greater extremes than others. So, some of us went some of us stayed out in our addictions for 12 years. Some of us stayed out in our addictions for 1 year. Some of us, it just doesn't mean that you're not an addict. It doesn't mean that you're any more an addict than I am or I'm any more an addict than you are. We're all addicts, right? Some of us just bashed our head against the walls a couple more times than the others, right? And I think it's just because, just like in our recovery, all of our bodies are different, and all of us respond to recovery, addiction differently. I find myself crying a lot now, too. Oh, Tony, me too, baby. You know that. You know that. We all have different. Some of us found that we had enough when we realized that we were getting high too often. Okay. At first, we were using in a manner that seemed to be social or at least controllable. We had little indication of the disaster that the future held for us. At some point, our using became uncontrollable and antisocial. This began when things were going well and we were in situations that allowed us to use frequently. This was usually the end of good times. We may have tried to moderate, substitute, or even stop using, but we went from a state of drugged success and well being to complete spiritual and mental and emotional bankruptcy. This rate of decline varies from addict to addict. Whether it occurs in years or days, it is all downhill. Those of us who don't die from the disease will go on to prison, mental institutions, or complete demoralization as the disease progresses. So, if you don't die from your addiction, you're going to go to prison, you're going to go to the mental institution, or you're going to just be so demoralized that you're just like it's whatever. Drugs had given us the feeling that we could handle whatever situation might develop. Superwoman! We became aware, however, that drug usage was largely responsible for some of our worst predicaments. Some of us may spend the rest of our lives in jail for a drug-related crime. Some of us might spend the rest of our lives in jail for a drug-related crime. Now that, my friends, I'm so grateful that my crime was just, like I said, some petty possession, you guys, because I can't imagine, getting a hardcore crime and then getting sober in jail and being there for like 20 plus years behind a crime that I did while I was loaded. We had to reach our bottom before we were willing to stop. We were finally motivated to seek help in the latter stage of our addiction. Then it was easier for us to see the destruction, disaster, and delusion of our using. It was harder to deny our addiction when problems were staring us right in the face. Some of us first saw the effects of addiction on the people closest to us. We were very dependent upon them to carry us through life. We felt angry, disappointed, and hurt when they found other interests, friends, and loved ones. We regretted the past, dreaded the future, and we weren't too thrilled about the present. After years of searching, we were more unhappy and less satisfied than when it all began. Our addiction enslaved us. We were prisoners of our own mind and were condemned by our own guilt. We gave up the hope that we would ever stop using drugs. Our attempts to stay clean always failed, causing us pain and misery. As addicts, we have an incurable disease called addiction. The disease is chronic, progressive, and fatal. Do you hear that? This is how serious it is. It says, our addiction enslaved us. We were slaves to our addiction. We were prisoners of our minds and condemned by our own guilt. We gave up hope that we would ever be able to get sober. How many of you guys got to a point in your addiction where you were like, I'm never going to get sober. I'm never going to change. However, it is a treatable disease. We feel that each individual has to answer the question, am I an addict? How we got the disease is of no immediate importance to us. We are concerned with recovery. We begin to treat our addiction by not using. Many of us sought answers but failed to find any workable solution until we found each other. Once we identify ourselves as addicts, help becomes possible. We can see a little of ourselves in every addict and see a little of them in us. This insight lets us help one another. Our future seemed hopeless until we found clean addicts who were willing to share with us. Denial of our addiction kept us sick, but our honest admission of addiction enabled us to stop using. The people of NA told us that they were recovering addicts who had learned to live without drugs. If they could do it, so could we. The only alternative to recovery are jails, institutions, dereliction, and death. Unfortunately, our disease makes us deny our addiction. If you are an addict, you find a new way of life through the NA program. We have become very grateful in the course of our recovery. Through abstinence and through working the 12 steps of NA, our lives have become useful. We realize that we are never cured and that we carry the disease within us for the rest of our lives. We have a disease, but we do recover. Each day we are given another chance. We are convinced that there is only one way for us to live, and that is the NA way. So that was chapter 1 in the Narcotics Anonymous basic text, Who is an Addict? So I wanted to go back to one part. Okay. So it says, once we identify ourselves as addicts, help becomes possible. We can see a little of ourselves in every addict and see a little of them in us. The insight lets us help one another. Our future seemed hopeless until we found clean addicts who were willing to share with us. So, how many of you guys felt like there was no end in sight, but then when you found someone who had been through their addiction and gotten sober on the other end, you're like, damn, if they can do it, I can do it. And then that little nugget of hope, that little seed of hope is planted. And that's where that little tree of recovery grows, because that hope is planted in your life. You know, I mean, that's how it was for me. I had listened to so many women come into treatment and share their stories. And so I remembered those women all through my active addiction. I remembered those ladies. And now now that I'm sober, I think back and I'm like, they were right. They were right. I'm telling you this though, you guys, like it takes action. You know, one of the main problems I had was I thought that I was going to be able to get sober by doing nothing. I thought that as long as I did nothing, I just stayed at home, I didn't go out and get in trouble, that I would be sober, right? But damn, that's not how it works, okay? You have to take action and start making changes in your life. You have to start incorporating positive new life changes, positive habits, positive hobbies, meetings, meditation, sponsorship, mentorship, volunteer work, service, all these, church, praising whatever higher power that you are connected to. Like, these are the actions that you have to take in order to get sober and heal. It's not just quitting drugs. It's so much more than that. And so if you're struggling and you're white knuckling it and you're like, "Damn it, I'm white knuckling it. What the hell's going on here? Why don't I feel good yet?" It's because the next step is action. Put one foot in front of the other and start doing something different. I know who Ryan Donnelly is. I used to watch his channel, you guys. I met a woman older than me from a friend that had come out the other side. She ended up in the best friend I could ever have wished for. Oh, that's cool, Mark. Yep, we all know Ryan. We all miss him too. Damn, that's so sad. You know, but he passed away, sober man. So that's really an amazing thing that his family got to see him be clean and sober. You know what I mean? Colleen, I understand. Colleen says, "I've never gone to an NA meeting, just celebrate recovery. And I tried AA, but I live in a small town in the mountains, and all the AA meetings were old men." Not to sound dramatic, but if I hadn't found this channel, I don't think things would have ended well this year. I'm taking really small steps now, but they're working. Hey, Tony, that's all you can do. One foot in front of the other. You guys, when I say action, it could be anything. Action could mean doing these meetings online with us. Action could mean calling an accountability partner one time a day and checking in. Action could mean picking up your big book or your NA book or your CR book and reading about the disease of addiction. Action could mean sharing your recovery story with another addict that's struggling. These are all things that you can do to take action. Action Jackson. So I love you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's stream. Hey, Colleen, welcome to the channel, girl. You're at home now. I'll be live again Wednesday night at 7. I'm having a guest on the channel, so I'll see you guys back here Wednesday. And then Friday night at 7, we have our Medically Assisted Recovery Anonymous meeting. So for those of you that are on Suboxone or Methadone and you're looking for support, this Friday is the place you want to be, is here. 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We talk about all things Suboxone, all things recovery, and how that Suboxone maintenance medication and recovery work for us. And we share our experiences. You'll see, you'll like it. I let people call in. It's a good time, and we all chit chat and stuff like that in the comments. But I think you'll really, really enjoy it. And I'm just glad that you guys give me an opportunity to share with you guys every day. I really enjoy it. It really helps me stay sober. So just so you know, don't get it twisted. Um, you guys are helping me just as much as I'm helping you. So thank you for even being here and being a part of my live streams. I really appreciate it. So I love you guys, and I'll see you guys Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.